Hello, and welcome to the Imposter Syndrome Network podcast, where everyone belongs, especially if you think you don't. Welcome, imposters. My name is Chris Grundeman, and I'm here with my co-host, the master maven of cybersecurity, Zoe Rose.
Hey!
Hey, this is the Gema Perez episode, and I'm excited to share it with all of you. Gema is focused on the world of cybersecurity, specifically risk and compliance, security culture, and training and awareness, with an objective of enjoying every day and helping other colleagues grow professionally. Hey, Gema, would you mind introducing yourself a bit further to the Imposter Syndrome Network?
Yes, of course. Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you for having me. And hi, Zoe. So yes, I'm information security, how do we call it? Risk and compliance lead globally for Capgemini Engineering. And in the past, I've been working a lot on information security awareness, training, culture in general, crisis management, and a little bit from here, a little bit from there, everything related to people mostly and risks. So that's me in a nutshell in the professional world.
Awesome. Now, we'll get into your achievements and career path today, of course. But I got to say, I was really struck by your philosophy of work in technology. So many folks, I think myself included, have spent years chasing advancement and recognition, but you seem to have figured out a different approach. And I'm hoping maybe you can tell us about your objective of enjoying every day, and maybe even tell us a bit about how that plays into the way you approach your job and your career, Gema.
Well, I don't think I've ever been asked that question. And I just realized that it just happened like that. So it's not like I had a path and I had an objective. I'm going to enjoy a lot of my day-to-day life at work. But instead, when I was happy at work, when I was enjoying what I was doing, I was the best version of myself. So I was a better employee, a better colleague, a better person at home as well, of course, because if you don't like your job, you come home and you're like, finally, I come home. And then you vent and you share all your problems. So I realized that it makes me, when I'm happy, I want to be better and I want to learn more and I'm more involved. And everything is like in a very positive cycle that you're part of.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I think you're right. I think, we carry those emotions with us. One thing we've talked about, I think on a previous episode was, even just kind of the move towards work from home, which is semi-related in that I remember when I was commuting every day, I would show up to work already mad after having dealt with traffic and just, being angry about not getting to work on time and all that stuff. And I'd show up to work mad, and then that kind of carried through the day. And to your point, right, then you kind of carry that home with you, maybe out to your friends or to your family. So, I mean, it does make sense, right? And I've seen the same thing that, being happy and enjoying the work definitely makes everything better. But how do you do that? I mean, how do you follow through on that objective, right? I mean, is it a matter of saying no to things you don't want to do? Is it a matter of just accepting things with more peace? Or is it really like actively managing what you're working on? Is it more of a state of mind, or is it more active in changing what you're working on, or maybe both?
Yeah, I would say for me, at least, it's both 100%. First of all, I'm a person that I generally enjoy my job. I'm a weird person when they ask you, hey, how are you doing? How's your job going? And I'm like, I love my job. I'm this weird person. But I think it's indeed one thing triggers the other. So when you're involved and you want to do things well, you're going to learn more. When you learn more, you're more in your comfort zone. When you're more in your comfort zone, you're happier. So it's like making an effort because I'm trying to understand more. I'm trying to learn more. I'm trying to do all the trainings that I can do. So I really like my job. So I'm motivated already. I know it's not easy for everyone. Some people just want to do their jobs and they want to be there for 8 hours and leave, go to their houses and be at home, and they're happy with that. For me, I need this connection with work, and I'm very emotional. So if I'm happy at work, I'm going to be happy at home, as I said, and everything. It's like this happy feeling about it. At the end of the day, we spend 8 hours minimum at work. So if you don't enjoy it, then you probably have a problem. Unless you have a lot of money, of course.
No, that's a really good point. We just need to work really hard so that we have so much money we don't have to work anymore. I like that opinion.
If only that works so easily.
I know. One question I had is you've moved from, I think it was approximately 8 years you did security awareness, which is a long time to do one specific area. And not that it was little. I mean, I worked with you, so I saw how creative you were building, plans on training people and bringing awareness on a topic that, people don't always necessarily want to hear about. But then you shifted. What was it? this year, actually, to a very different role. How was that, and why did you make that change?
Yeah, so I've been actually thinking about that for a long time because, when you're in awareness or training, or I would say almost whatever sector within cybersecurity or within whatever field, you feel like you're trapped at some point and you think you're not going to be able to do anything else in your life. And that thing was in my head a lot. That thought was running in my head a lot. And I was thinking, I have to get out of it to be able to decide whether I want to be there or not. But I have to get out of it and do other things as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'm going to be so specialized and I'm only going to be doing this forever. And I'm not going to be able to improve in other areas. Also, I wanted the challenge. At some point, I felt like I was in my comfort zone a little bit. Of course, you always have to learn things. You have things to improve. You have more ideas and you keep learning. You keep reading other articles and new studies come. And you always feel like there's more to do, but I felt a little bit too comfortable at some point. Okay, this is how I do things here. This is how I measure. This is how I like to communicate to people. These are the things that I consider when I communicate. These are the things that I like reporting to the top management, and these are the things that work for me. So when I realized that I was too comfortable, I thought I have to do something else. It was really scary. I still feel from time to time like, should I be here? So of course, that's why I'm in the podcast, I guess. But when I made the move and I had support as well from the people that hired me saying, hey, we hired you because we know that you have what we need, which is, of course, it makes sense 100%. And you should always think that when they hire you, you should never be worried. You should think always they hired me for a reason. They saw something in me or they saw the potential. So that's something not to worry about. And yeah, I'm enjoying a lot more than I thought the new role. It's true that I miss many other things from my previous role. Of course, it allowed you to be very creative and you meet great people doing awareness because you're speaking with people all the time. But I miss the personal side of it, the human side of it. But I'm also doing things that are big challenges and you can have a more strategic view and you have to take a step back and see the whole organization and how to manage risk and what if an incident happen and how can I do it in a centralized way so that it works the same in India than in Germany. And yeah, it's a whole new world that I'm exploring. And for now, it's going well.
I'm slightly sad to hear that because I miss you, but I'm also really excited. If we take a step backwards, originally I believe the first role you had was a security awareness role, or also learning and development, I think it might have mentioned. One question I had was, why did you choose that career and kind of how did you get into it?
Well, choosing wouldn't be the right word, I think. I came in cybersecurity kind of by chance, but it's something that I enjoyed a lot. I actually studied translation and interpreting, so very strange combination. But when I finished, I thought, okay, I like tech a lot. I'm going to study another degree. I'm going to study computer science. And at some point I thought, okay, let's do a master. Let's, make it stable, like a potential career, the translation thing. But as I like technology, I did a master's in translation of video games, websites, software, and a little bit more technical stuff. Because I did the master's, I got an internship in a security operations center, in a SOC, and I started translating cybersecurity trainings there. Of course, when you are translating, some people think that it's just, putting the same message in English as in Spanish or French or whatever the language is. But you actually have to understand the meaning of the text to be able to transform it to the other language. So you cannot translate a training about hacking if you don't understand what hacking is. So I spent a long time on other websites just checking what does SQL mean or what does DDoS mean, and not only the word, but the actual concept. So at the end of the day, I realized I'm learning about cybersecurity, and I got the opportunity to keep working on the training side, not so much on the translation side. I accepted it. So I started working on training. The team was small. I always say I was at the right time in the right place. So we grew a lot. And when I realized I was already leading a team. So yeah, from the beginning, I've had this feeling of what am I doing here? I'm a translator. But then you realize that you can do great things with many other skills, like soft skills. And that I was actually learning a lot about cybersecurity as well. So it's not that I was, a person that didn't know anything about cybersecurity. But yeah, it was an interesting way of starting, I think.
Yeah, it is. I personally have not spoken to anyone else who came into technology through translation. I really like that point that maybe, especially in technology, maybe not. Maybe, I mean, there's a lot of technical fields out there, but that idea of having to understand what the message is more than just because Google Translate can take words and flip them into the other language, right? Translators needed to actually convey real meaning and understand that that string of words doesn't mean the same thing in another language, right? We often see those weird translations get memed and things like that sometimes, where it's a direct literal translation, but it doesn't actually mean the same thing. And idioms and things like that, and especially technical topics. That's really interesting. But I think it also highlights, something we've been talking about already a little bit, which is, your focus is much more on humans and behaviors and awareness on language and communication versus a strict technical background. And so I'm really interested in just, maybe your perspective on the security industry from that perspective, right? Because I assume, at least, from talking to Zoe and then my, seeing my own career and seeing other people in security, that a lot of technologists came to technology to avoid people. And so having you, chase people into security is almost the opposite perspective of a lot of folks. I'm wondering, how does that work in your career? I mean, has it been really beneficial? Has it been a hindrance at all to come at it from the human side? Or, how do you see cybersecurity from that human lens?
I think from the communications point of view, I really enjoyed it because for me it was a challenge as well. When you work in training, or in my case, to give you a little bit of context, when I started, I was working, as I said, at the SOC. So there was a hacking team, there was an application security team, there was a CM team. So there was all these specialized teams. And then we were training clients with their support. So we actually had to work with all of them, with all the teams, so that they would facilitate the trainings. We would help them with everything, and they would be the trainings because, of course, who would be best to teach you about hacking than a hacker that is working there all the time? So you had to, first of all, you had the challenge of make them understand that you can understand them, so that they don't take you for, this is a training person that doesn't understand anything about cybersecurity. Why should I speak to you now about this? This is very complicated. So you have to go with a humble point a little bit, but you also have to prove that you know. So that's one challenge, which I loved because for now, one of my best experiences, most of the very, very good experiences I've had with all the colleagues was with technical colleagues. They're amazing. You can learn so much from them. But you also have the client side, which is another completely different side of the business. And then you also have the management, which in some cases they can be technical or they can understand the technical side, but in some others, they only understand the economical side. So you're all the time communicating with very different groups of people. And I think for me, it was very good to create some basis on my experience so that in the future, I know perfectly how to communicate with different groups. I think it was the thing that is more difficult about this rather than the communication side would be the image they have of me, or the image I think people have of me, because it's also a lot what I think or what I think they're going to think. On many occasions, I think that because you come from training or from awareness, you don't know much about cybersecurity. And I think I've mentioned it a lot of times to Zoe and to my previous colleagues, that one of the most difficult interviews that I've ever done was to work in Canon as information security awareness lead. I had many technical questions that I wouldn't expect from that role, but I also liked it because I could prove, hey, I know about this and I'm a good person. I'm a good choice for this position. So I would say that's the thing that was more difficult for me, to prove that you really know about this and to prove it to myself as well, kind of. So yeah.
I really like the one comment you made about how your most difficult interview actually turned out to be almost validating.
Yeah.
Because interviews are scary. Interviews are stressful. And I think earlier in my career, I was always so worried about failing an interview that I forgot actually interviews can help you grow and help you learn. And they can also be a really good tool to see, is this the right position for me based on how they interview? So I really like the comment you made about how, even though it was really difficult, it proved that you deserved to be there. Because I think personally, I wouldn't feel that way. I would be like, oh, that was so difficult. What if I'm not good enough? So I'm curious, and is it a mindset thing, or is it like something you actively kind of try to retrain the way you think about challenges? I want to learn, so tell me.
I'm not sure I'm the right person to teach or you want to learn from. But for me, yeah, I have this challenge thing all the time. Rather than being scared to fail in an interview, I'm very scared of disappointing all the time. And for me, an interview is always something that I don't know the other person. So I cannot disappoint them, really. I just don't know them. So yeah, I'm going to try. I'm going to see if you like me. I'm going to see if I like you, because now I'm learning as well. So when you do other interviews, you learn that you're also interviewing the other person. You have to ask about the environment and about the things that are important to you at work, and yeah, all these things. I actually asked a lot of questions. But yeah, I think I have that I cannot fail there, because there's no relationship yet. There is nothing. I'm not at that job. I'm not. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Something else will come, and it wasn't a good opportunity. Probably, maybe they didn't like me for another reason. So yeah, for me, I felt like I liked being able to prove so many things, but it also showed me how much the other person knew, which is something that I personally care a lot about. Some people don't care so much about the managers and about the managers of the managers and how the organization works in terms of cybersecurity. For me, it's something that is super important. I want to have someone above me that I admire, that I know that knows a lot more than me or knows how to do things much better than me. Even if they don't have more knowledge about something, maybe they have more experience and they know how to do things better. So that for me works already. But I need to have a person that I know that is going to help me grow, let's say.
That makes a ton of sense. I really like that idea of, again, and this has come up before on the podcast as well, but this idea that an interview is also your opportunity to interview them, and make sure that you're getting into a position that you're going to want to work in, that's going to, be fun for you and that you can learn things, particularly from the people you work with, right? So I'm sure that's not just the hiring manager, probably the team as well. And I think that probably ties in back to, again, kind of the theme we've been talking about today, which is this kind of people side of technology and really approaching this with empathy. I mean, it sounds like, again, you describe yourself as being emotional, but I think maybe emotionally intelligent is an even better description. And so does that lens of kind of looking at things through that human centric, we talked about a little bit, but, with empathy, does that play into your career decisions? I mean, it sounds like it does. It sounds like the people you work with is just as important as the projects you work on, or am I exaggerating what you said?
Not at all. I think you got my thought exactly as it is. Indeed, for me, it's super important to be working with people that I really admire and that are going to help me grow, as I said. I think it also has to do with the fact that I'm not very competitive either. So if you're very competitive and you're surrounded by people that are better than you, you're going to take it as a negative challenge. So it's always a competition. I want to be better than that person. I have to prove that I'm better than that person. When you take it as how lucky you are to be surrounded by people that are so much better than you, then it's when you realize and you really enjoy it and you take time to speak with them and to learn from them. Yeah, and also approaching it with emotional intelligence, as you said, helps a lot. Sometimes there are people that know a lot about something, but they don't want to share it with you for whatever reason. They don't have the time, or they don't think the conversation is going to be beneficial for them, or whatever reason it is. If you have this empathy, you can understand why isn't it working? Why is that relationship not working? Why are we not benefit? Why don't we have a beneficial relationship with this person? And then you understand maybe that person just is not interested in this, but is interested in that. So I can just go through that path and get some information from that person, or just have a professional relationship, which would be good enough for most people. But yeah, I think it's, for me, working with people that really can teach you so much is being the luckiest person in the world at work.
Well, I think that leads into one of the other things I really wanted to highlight is, I mean, obviously you started out with translation, so you know multiple languages. I believe you're at Spanish, English, French, and I think you're learning Greek as well, which is really impressive because I can barely speak English. But you've also moved a lot of countries because you started out in Spain and then I believe you moved to Netherlands and now you're in Denmark. From my perspective, it's been really hard. I've also moved a lot of countries, but it's always really hard for me to integrate and kind of settle into a country. Whereas viewing you and kind of knowing you, from an outside point of view, it seemed like you're really good at integrating and really good at settling into different ways of working, different cultures. And I would love to get some insights on how you do that and things that maybe have worked well for you in the past and things that maybe haven't worked so well.
Well, one of the things that is important here, I think, is also inside everyone. I would say I've met many people that moved to the Netherlands, and then I spoke to them and they told me how bad the experience was, how unfriendly Dutch people are, and how difficult the language is, and the food is super bad, and the weather is super bad. Of course, if you move from Portugal to the Netherlands, thinking that you're going to find what you have in Portugal in the Netherlands, you're going to have a problem there. So you have to move with an open-minded always. You have to like it. I think I really, really like knowing about other cultures. And well, I've spoken with Zoe many, many times, and I've asked you 100 questions about when you were living here and when you were living there, and how is it and how's the culture. And because I'm interested, I really I like the personal side again of everything. I like seeing how people think and seeing how Dutch people can seem direct for Spanish people, because we're not direct, but that can be good, that can be bad at the same time. Because at work, I've always felt in the Netherlands that people have told me the truth. People were more honest to me because they would say the good and the bad things. In Spain, saying the bad things is more difficult. So sometimes you would be doing something wrong and nobody tells you, which is not very useful at work. So I think if you have this open mind of, okay, I'm going to have different things in this country that I don't have in my other country. Some are going to be better, some are going to be worse, but you're there just to live the experience. And yeah, I think that goes inside everyone. Things that work is, first of all, that having that open mind, not comparing. I think that's super important. If I start comparing, I wouldn't live in Denmark, or I wouldn't have lived in the Netherlands or Germany, because of course the sun in Spain is much better and the food is much better and my family is there. And if you start comparing, you're probably never going to enjoy it 100%. But it's the same as if I compare my sister to my mother. I don't know. I love both of them the same. They're very different. I'm not going to compare them. I'm going to enjoy them differently as well. But yeah, having that open mind, not comparing, and if you can take some time to learn about the culture and the country and the people, that helps a lot as well.
I also want to touch on public speaking. It's kind of a shift from what we were just talking about, but I remember when we were working together, I saw you present at the Information Security Forum World Congress, I think is what it's called. I was really, really impressed with your presenting style, but I remember you telling me that you're actually new to presenting and public speaking. So I'm curious on why you did that and what your thoughts are on how to kind of do that a bit more for people that are maybe more nervous in starting out. Because as I said, not only were you speaking non-native language, that's got to be scary, but also it was one of your first presentations, if I remember correctly. So I was very impressed.
Thank you. I'm very flattered. I don't think it went so well, but of course, I would see all the mistakes that I made and all the times that I stopped. But yeah, it was indeed one of the first times I spoke publicly, also in person, not the first, but yeah, I spoke like 3 more times, 4 in person, 2 of them in big events, all the rest in smaller situations. Also, the not being a native speaker made me super nervous, because if you don't come up with a word, then you can be completely blocked, because that's a word you have in your mind and you know it in the other language, and in the other language it's not the same as in this language, and you can get nervous and then it stops the flow. And yeah, it's a fear that I always have when I speak in public. But I also understand that when you work in international environments, people are more understanding, and as long as you adjust your accent a little bit so that you can be understood, they're not gonna be so strict on you didn't pronounce this S, or this pronoun doesn't go with this noun, or okay, whatever. I have to say that a very, very, very important thing, I don't know if I think I mentioned to you, Zoe, at some point, is having role models. Unfortunately, I would say as a woman, I don't have so many role models. So when I came in the world of cybersecurity, I saw some people and they were amazing technically. So of course, I'm never going to be like these people because I'm not a technical person. So what what can I give to the world of cybersecurity? What can I share with the community if I'm not a technical person? But then I heard you speaking about many other things, like how important relationship and communication is in cybersecurity as well, which I would never think of that not coming from a technical background. I would never understand, wow, yeah, indeed, this is important. Because for me, it's also like something basic. I come from communication. Of course, it's important. I also saw Jessica Barker many times on LinkedIn and, well, now the YouTube channel and everything. And it's a real inspiration because indeed she shares things that in the past I would think, yeah, they're very basic. Why would I share this? But then if you're able to communicate in the way she does, very clearly with examples, and then it can really help many, many people that they don't know it, or they know it, but they don't know how to structure it in their heads, or they don't understand how to make the relationship with other topics, but you explain it so clearly that, yeah, it's not only that you're able to share many technical aspects of something, but it's about sharing many other things that are important, not being scared. But I think that's something that you cannot help. You're going to be scared. That's it. That's life as well. But yeah, I think I was lucky as well that in the past I've been always speaking in public in Spanish. So that helped a lot. Okay, I've been in front of an audience, not in English, but okay, how bad can it be? Yeah, also the same as we said with the interview. When you want to present in a conference or in a congress or something, they're going to speak to you and they're going to see if you're a candidate or not. So if they chose you, it's for a reason. You have to believe a little bit in yourself again.
I really like that aspect of kind of trusting, to some degree, I get trusting the gatekeepers, right? Because there are, in so many aspects of our lives, there are these gatekeepers. And I think you're right that so many of us get hung up on impressing the gatekeepers versus realizing, oh, they already said yes. Like they already let me in the door. I'm already on stage. I'm already in the interview. Yeah, that trusting their instincts as well as your own is super important, I think. Unfortunately, that is about all the time we have for today. So we'll have to leave it there for now. Gema, are there any projects we have not mentioned yet that you'd like the Imposter Syndrome Network to know about?
No, not really. I'm working again on my blog. I have a blog focused on people development, but it's in Spanish. So what I'm working on now is in translating it into English and creating content in both languages so that I can make it accessible for more people.
Awesome.
But I'm working on it, so it will come soon, probably.
Very cool. That's fantastic. I love that because I would take much longer to read it in Spanish than I will in English. So thanks for that. And also, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story with the Imposter Syndrome Network. And thank you to all of our listeners for your most valuable time and attention. If you found this episode insightful or interesting, please consider paying it forward by letting others know about this show and the great guests we have on. Now, Gema, before we totally close down, I know we didn't touch on this exactly, but you worked at two of the big fours as far as a big consulting companies, which is a pretty big achievement for folks. You were nominated for Most Inspiring Women in Cybersecurity in 2022, which is also fantastic. Amongst all of that, and you touched on this a little bit, kind of being less technical or coming at this from a non-technical viewpoint. But with all of this kind of career success you've had, do you ever feel like an imposter? And if so, what do you do when you feel that imposter syndrome kicking in?
Yes, I feel it almost every day. And to me, some of the things that help, first of all, as I mentioned already, it's people around me. When I'm in a moment in which I don't think I can do something, and I speak with some friends or some colleagues or my partner, and they just make me sit and say, "Hey, Hem, I realize that you did this and this and that," and then I'm like, "Okay, maybe I indeed did something." So people help me a lot, and I would say also that the mindset of realizing that when you feel like an imposter is a great opportunity to learn and to grow. I think that's the thing that helped me most in my career.
Awesome. I love that advice. And with that, we'll be back next week.
LinkedIn is the one I use the most. Twitter, I can spend 3 months there and then I don't go there for 6 months. Or
to be honest, I'm in the same boat. And now there's another platform. Did you guys see the Blue Sky platform? So far, it looks okay, but I am hoping it's the last bloody platform because I do not want to collect them all in this case. This is not Pokemon.